Hey, this is Jay, co-producer of A State of Ride, otherwise known as DJ Jo, and this is part 2 of our OBS instructional video. If you missed part 1, in that we talked about OBS, what it can do, where to download it from, how to install it. We looked at some of the menus and settings within it. And in this video, we are going to do many things like set up your webcam, set up your microphone, build some scenes, and much, much more. But before we get to any of that, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to slap that like button and subscribe. If you find any of this useful, or if you have any questions, comment down below. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so what we're going to do right off the bat is we're going to open OBS. So now that we've opened OBS, we are presented with this familiar screen from the previous video. First thing we're going to add is our webcam. So now in order to do that, the first thing we want to do is under scenes, you already have scene called scene that's blank. We're going to actually make use of that. Click on that, right click and hit rename. We're going to call this S for source, space, hyphen, space, C930. And the reason being is the only thing I'm going to put in here is my C930. So once we've done that, we can click the plus sign under sources because we want to add our webcam source. You're presented with a whole bunch of items that you can add, but the one that we're looking for looks like a camera, and it's called video capture device. So once we click that, we're asked to create new because obviously we don't have any existing already. It wants to call it video capture device, but we don't want to call it that because we want to easily be able to recognize what it is. So we're actually going to call it C930. So I'm going to hit OK there. Okay, so it's found my webcam right off the bat because it happens to be the first in the list, so it finds it right away. I'm going to move this out of the way. I notice two things wrong with it right off the bat. One, it's not 1920 by 1080, and I know this camera can do 1920 by 1080. So let's fix that first. In order to fix that, we're going to go here where it says resolution FPS type, device default, and we're going to click that, and we're going to choose custom. And now under resolution, just below that, we are going to choose 1920 by 1080 at the top of the list. My webcam has now taken up the full canvas, which is good. That's what we want. But if you notice, compared to my Lumix, see that delay that it's stuttering? Now, this is a problem inherent with the drivers on nearly all webcams. And I'm going to show you where to fix that. See this button here that says configure video? Click that. And this is what you're going to be presented with. These are all the internal settings within the webcam that you can control: brightness, contrast, so on and so forth. If you click the camera control tab, see this button here that says low light compensation? We don't want that because that's what's causing this issue. So if I check that box and hit apply, now you'll notice my webcam is acting the way it should be. Word of warning. Every time you restart your computer, you will need to check this box because for whatever reason, it does not remember this setting. It'll remember other settings, but it will not remember this setting. It's a known issue. It's just something to be aware of. We're going to click OK. Under the webcam, down here, we're going to click OK. And now we have our webcam full screen. So now before we go any further, under sources, see this little lock? I'm going to click that, and you'll notice when I clicked that, let me click it off and back on again. You'll notice the red box has gone away. Because if the red box is on and it's unlocked, I can accidentally move it around. But if I lock it, now I can't accidentally move it. Now you'll also notice under the audio tab, we now have an audio source, which is labeled the C930, which is bouncing to the sound of my voice. And that's because the internal microphone within the C930 is now hearing me. With that, I can actually go through and I can adjust the volume level through the slider. I can go through and I can mute it, and I can go to this advanced tab to get more functionality. But I don't plan on using the microphone within the webcam because it's not very good. So I'm going to mute that now. And so now we've got our first scene set up that contains our webcam, and we now have audio control of it, which we've set to mute. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set up your microphone. While I could go through and click the plus sign here and add the microphone, we're not going to do that because I want to get you using the best practices. So then down the road, as your setup of an OBS gets more advanced, it's easier to troubleshoot. The best way that I came up with to describe this would be a food analogy. If you've ever watched a cooking show, the chef will have gone through before the show and they chop up all the tomatoes and they chop up all the onions and they get everything prepared and they have it all neatly organized in their little bowls. And that's what we're doing. We're going to go through and take your webcam and your mic and we're going to get them set up and ready, and they're going to be in their own scenes. And the reason why we're going to do that is when we actually start building the scenes that you're going to use for your broadcast, we don't want to have to go through and chop the tomatoes again. We want to use the tomatoes that we've already have chopped in their own scene. And I might want to use them in this entree or in this scene. And I might want to use some of them in the main or the next scene. By going through and setting them up in their own scenes, we can very easily build more scenes using those elements that we've already created. Okay, so in order to add another scene, what we want to do is under the box scenes, down the lower left, you'll see a plus icon. If we hit the plus icon, we get another scene. Let's call this one S for source, space, hyphen, hyphen, Yeti, or whatever your microphone is. I'm calling it Yeti because I'm going to add my blue Yeti microphone, and I click OK. You'll see that the screen went black. Well, that's because we are actually on the Yeti scene and there's nothing in it yet. Before we go any further, if I click the C930, well, the C930 comes back. If I click the Yeti, it goes blank because there's nothing in there. Under sources, I'm going to click the plus sign and I need to add the microphone. In order to add the microphone, what I'm looking for is near the top, you're going to see something that looks like a mic, and it's going to be an audio input capture. If I click that, it wants me to call it audio input capture. No, not calling it that. I'm going to call it Yeti. So I know that's my blue Yeti microphone, and I'm going to click OK. Now I need to find my microphone. The device is set to default. I'm going to click that and I'm going to scroll down and find my Yeti, which is microphone, Yeti stereo microphone. And I'm going to click OK. In this scene, even though it's blank, there's nothing in it, it has audio in it. And that audio is the audio from my blue Yeti microphone. I have two scenes, each with their own source within them. So I have my webcam and I have my microphone. Let's add another source. This one's going to be music. I'm sure you're going to want to play music within your presentation. In order to do that, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click the plus icon. I'm going to assume that most of you use Spotify. I'm going to add one called Spotify. I'm going to click OK. This time, I'm going to add what's known as an audio output capture. Reason being is when Spotify is normally played, it's played as an output. You're playing something from within the computer and it's coming out, and I want to capture the output of that. Unlike the microphone, which is an input. So I'm going to select audio output capture. I'm going to call this Spotify and I'm going to click OK. And it wants me to add a device. In order to have Spotify be played, I need to pick whatever speakers Spotify would be playing out of, which usually would be your desktop audio. For me, I know my desktop audio is the Realtek high definition audio. So I'm going to choose that and click OK. And now that I've done that, if I start playing Spotify, it'll be heard. And I'm going to show you that in one moment. Okay, so now I have Spotify playing. As you can see, Spotify is playing and you can hear it. So now your main three things that you want to set up, which would be your webcam, your microphone, and your music in the background, now all work. So now we can start using those ingredients, those scenes, to build more scenes. Okay, so now the first scene we're going to build is your main scene. So let's create another scene by clicking the plus icon, and we're going to call this main webcam. So there we go, main webcam. What we're going to do is we're going to add a scene. Here where it's got the lines and where it says scene, we're going to add a scene. And we're going to add C930. And we're going to click the plus sign again. And we're going to add another scene. And we're going to add the Yeti. And we're going to add another scene. And we're going to add Spotify. What we've got is we've got all three items within a scene. Okay, Future J here. If you're not hearing your Spotify through your headphones through OBS, or if you're actually hearing your microphone, repeat back to yourself. Here's a way to fix that. Down in the audio mixer, see the gear icon? Click that and choose Advanced Audio Properties. And this window will open up. Now, right now, my Spotify wouldn't be playing, and here's why. So if I scroll across and I see where it says audio monitoring, for Spotify, I want monitor and output because I want to hear the music and I want it to go out so they hear the music. For the microphone, mine is correct. It's set to monitor off. So all it's doing is outputting. But if it was set for monitor and output, you would hear it as well as them. So you want to make sure that one's monitor off, but you want to make sure that your Spotify is monitor and output because you want to hear it as well. That was just a little quick tip. Okay, so now I'm going to create another scene. I'm just going to create a copy of it. So I'm going to right click that. I'm going to click duplicate. And I'm going to call this one main webcam without music. I'm going to click OK. And now in this one, I'm going to click on the Spotify and I'm going to actually remove that. If I click on the one with the music and I have Spotify playing, so I have Spotify playing, and I click to the one without music, I still see the same stuff and Spotify is no longer playing. Now, it's still playing on in the background. I don't have to go into Spotify to mute it. Change the scene and now it's muted. Okay, so let's create another scene. We'll do it the same way. We'll hit the plus sign and we'll call this small webcam. Now in here, what we're going to do is we're going to click the plus sign under sources. We're going to add a scene and that one's going to be the Yeti. And then we're going to click the plus sign again and we're going to add another scene and we're going to choose the C930. So now that's full screen. So now what we can do with this, if we want to, is we can actually shrink this down and say, put it in the corner. And if we don't want to accidentally move that, we can lock it. So now it won't move. So now why did I do that? Well, I might want to add branding in here. So what's one way I can add branding? Well, I can go add and I can add an image. So I'm going to call this branding. And now it's going to ask me to find an image file and I'm going to choose this mask. Yep, I like that. You'll notice it's covered up my webcam. And that's because everything that's in sources, whatever's at the top of the list is in front. Whatever's on the bottom of the list is in back, and so on and so forth. So if I click on branding and I click this down chevron, well, now I can just move that to the bottom. And now I have my webcam and I've got an image that's my branding, and there we go. And I mean, this could be anything. This could be your logo. This could be, you know, the name of your class. Could be anything. And now I can actually click back and forth between these during the class. I am not digging this logo. So I'm going to swap this out. That is better. I like that better. Okay, I'm going to actually move these scenes up to the top. Since those are the ones we're going to be using, all these ones that we called S, which is our sources that we put within scenes, I'm going to put at the bottom. that is the basics on how to set up your webcam, your microphone, and some sample scenes. Over in the scene transition, that's a fade. This would be a swipe. You can add many things to it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at broadcasting it out there. First way we're going to look is Facebook Live. Now, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch are very similar. We're just going to use Facebook Live as an example. So first thing I want you to do is open a web browser, navigate to your Facebook page. Where you would normally do a post, there should be a button that says Go Live. If you click that button, you should have a screen that looks something like this. What we're going to do is we're going to actually select Go Live. Okay, so when we click the Go Live button, this is what we should be presented with. Across the top, it's gonna ask if you're gonna use webcam or streaming software. We're obviously gonna use streaming software because we're gonna use OBS. Now below that, there's streaming software setup. I have this whited out. Behind that is a key that you would copy and paste within OBS. Okay, so now we're back in OBS and I'm gonna click the settings tab. I'm gonna go to stream. I'm going to choose Facebook Live, default server. I've copied the stream key and I just paste it in. Click apply. I click OK. If I go in and I press start streaming, I'm actually connecting to Facebook to start streaming. Now, Facebook, there's one more step. Twitch, you'd be streaming right away. You can see I have my preview here. That means that it's actually picking up OBS. If I press this button here that says go live, then I'd actually be live on Facebook. Okay, and that wraps up part 2 of our OBS instructional video. So if you found that useful, be sure to comment down below. In part 3, we're going to be looking at connecting Zoom directly to OBS. It's a little bit more involved, so it's its own video. And with that, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. And I'm Jo. Peace.
Yeah, well, we've told people why we're here. And that's why Chops is here. He's like, come on, man, will you just hurry up? But I'm going to wait till Reese comes in. Oh, dude, you serious? Mate, the crotch cam kills me, bud. It's the most unflattering angle you can ever get, bro.
That's fantastic.
Holy moly.
Actually, what I need to do is I needed to go to this one because I have to do this.
You're such a funny bugger.